chapter 9, verse 17. Let me make sure we're live. Okay. All right. So, Canto 9, chapter 19, King Yayati attains liberation. Verse 17. Matra svasra duhitrava na vivakta sano bhavit balavan indriya gramo vidvamsam api karsati. Word for word by Srila Prabhupada. Matra, with one's mother. Svasra, with one's sister. Duhitra, with one's own daughter. Va, either. Na, not. Avivakta asanaha, seated closely on the seat. Bhavit, one should be. Bahalavan, very strong. Indriya gramaha, the group of senses. Vidvamsam, the very learned and advanced person. Api, even. Karsati, agitates. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter. For the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. Purport. Learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. As specifically mentioned here, with such attraction is possible even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Generally, of course, one is not sexually attracted to his mother, sister, or daughter. But if one allows himself to sit very close to such a woman, one may be attracted. This is a psychological fact. It may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he is not very advanced in civilized life. However, as specifically mentioned here, Vidvam sam api karsati, even if one is highly advanced, materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desires. The object of attraction may even be one's mother, sister, or daughter. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was most strict in such dealings, especially after he accepted the sannyasa order. Indeed, no woman could come near him to offer him respect. Again, one is warned herewith that one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. When we read things like that, we should understand that women may mean men or any object of sensual enjoyment or sensual attraction. So it's not just women. As Chaturatma Prabhu said a couple couple classes ago, lust is a two-way street. So every time we read things like women, we should understand that that may mean men, or a horse, or any object of sensual enjoyment of lust. So again, one is warned here with that one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. A brahmachari, someone who is a student in spiritual life, is forbidden even to see the wife of his spiritual master if she happens to be young. Which means if she happens to be attractive physically, if there is an object that happens to be attractive to us, to our senses, then we're all students in spiritual life, we're all brahmacharis in this sense. So we are forbidden to see the wife of our spiritual master, even if she happens to be young. The wife of the spiritual master may sometimes take some service from the disciple of her husband, as she would from a son. But if the wife of the spiritual master is young, a brahmachari is forbidden to render service to her. Again, this means be careful. If the object seems to be attractive to you, admit in everybody. If the sense object happens to be attractive to you, be careful. Be careful. You may render some service here and there as a son to a mother, but be careful. That's like a big red signage on the wall. Be careful, danger. So that's Srimad Bhagavatam, very cutting. And Srila Prabhupada is very cutting. He's our guru, he's heavy. So Srimad Bhagavatam is heavy. This language of Srimad Bhagavatam is heavy. But let's all be mature, let's all be broad-minded, and let's all remember the context of this heavy, of this strong language, which is bhakti, devotional service, favorable service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, this heavy language of Srimad Bhagavatam will not intimidate us or, throw us off or discourage us. Okay, let me just say good morning. Okay, good morning, Athena. Good morning, Isabel. Jamuna Jaya, good morning. Good morning, Jatin. Good morning, Bhima Prabhu and his horses. Good morning, Kartik. Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Preeti. Bhakti-centered devotees, good morning to you. Hare Krishna. Jagadishwar Nimai Das Prabhu, good morning. Andrea, everyone, welcome. This is Srimad Bhagavatam class at the Bhakti Center. So we read the verse now. Let me do the invocation. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhiraye Nasta Prayeshva Bhajishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Translation of this verse, this invocation verse. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, just like Andrea does, or Angel, just by regular attendance in Srimad Bhagavatam classes, or by rendering service to the personality, to the pure devotee, everything that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed. And the service of Krishna, who is praised by the transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanatimirandasya Kyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yenai Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual masters are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto them again and again and again. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Putale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So the verse again, one should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter, for the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. Okay. So, like I said, feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and share a reflection, contribute to this class. Srimad Bhagavatam consists of questions. It's based on questions and answers. So don't be shy, come forward. Okay, as we can see in this verse, the Shastra, Srimad Bhagavatam, doesn't say, don't sit in the same seat even with your own mother, sister, or daughter because they are contaminated, because they are lowly. It says, don't sit, be careful, because the senses are strong. So it's not your mother or sister or your daughter's fault that you can sit with them on the same seat, on the same asana. It's your fault, it's our fault, because our senses are strong, and therefore we should be careful dealing with our sense objects. And Srimad Bhagavatam is not a study of etiquette. Etiquette is not the solution to lust, Srila Prabhupada says. Learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. So it's not about etiquette. It's not that we can master all the subtleties and intricacies of etiquette, and then all of a sudden we'll become free and from lust. All of a sudden our senses will get purified. That's not the process. Etiquette is not the process. Etiquette is just one of the tools. It's a helpful tool. It helps us to control our senses, but it's not the tool. It's not the primary tool. It's not the process. It's not about etiquette. It's not that you make spiritual advancement if you just abstain from pressing buttons or doing work or on certain days, or that you abstain from grains and beans on certain days. That's not what makes our heart free from impurity, free from lust. The process that makes us free from lust is different. Who can tell me the process?
Is it chanting Hare Krishna?
Yes, Angel, yes. What's the general term for this chanting?
Japa? Japa?
Japa is a specific term. What's the general term for the process that liberates us from lust? It starts. That's included in this general term that I'm trying to get. It starts with B. What's that? Or D. Mm-hmm. Andrea, what starts with B? What process?
Bima wrote it in the chat.
Bima. Let me see.
Devotion.
Bhakti or devotional service.
Bhakti or devotional service, Jamuna Jaya. And Bima, and Bima, yeah. Bhakti, devotion, love. Yes, that's the process. And this process consists of 7, 5, 23, 24. Angel, this is what you said. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, which means hearing and chanting. That's what bhakti consists of. Hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, chanting Hare Krishna, japa. Form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, Krishna. Remembering them, smaranam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, pada sevanam. Pada means feet, sevanam means service. Offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia. Offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering, Atmanivedanam, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. So that's the process that gets us free from lust. It's not etiquette. It's not that you have to run away from women or hide in the bushes. It's about positive processes, hearing and chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, considering Krishna your best friend. In other words, understanding that everything that is happening in your life, whether pleasurable or painful, is coming from Krishna because he's your best friend. So this is friendship. This is what friendship with Krishna means. And ultimately surrendering your body, mind, and words to Krishna. So everything you say, everything you do, everything you take in has to be done in the spirit of devotion. Work in the spirit of devotion. Chapter 3, Bhagavad Gita says in every verse. Okay, so we've discussed how bhakti, being free from lust, is not about etiquette, even though it's a helpful tool. It helps us being careful. So the positive process, the real process is bhakti, shravanam, kirtanam, and so forth. Nine processes. Okay, and then, yeah, I wanted to make this point that if we observe a very advanced Vaishnava, very advanced devotee, for example, Vaisheshika Prabhu, if we observe Vaisheshika Prabhu or any other devotee of his caliber, we'll see how careful those devotees are about details, about seemingly small things in devotional service. We'll see how careful they are. And then if you observe a neophyte devotee like myself, you'll see how neglectful, how casual I am about seemingly small things, details. So that's the difference between, one of the differences between an advanced devotee and a neophyte devotee. A neophyte devotee only sees the big picture, Krishna. I am here to surrender my whole life to Krishna. As one young devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I want to give my whole life to you. And Srila Prabhupada immediately cut him and he said, I mean, it's not yours in the first place. What do you have to offer your whole life? You don't even have anything. So sometimes in the beginning of our bhakti, we tend to neglect and spiritually bypass something that we consider details. Oh, it's just a detail. It's just one news article. It's just one television show. It's just one chocolate bar that I just conveniently, quickly spin around and offer to Krishna and consume. It's just this one devotee that I may look down upon. It's a small thing. I am here, I am shooting for Krishna. I am here to surrender my life to Krishna. And there's nothing in between me and Krishna. It's just me and the Lord. And devotees, we can push them out of the way. We can neglect, disregard, chocolate bar, television show. It's okay. It's just one little thing, one small thing. So that's a neophyte thinking. If you observe Vaisheshika Prabhu, even when he is in the car, in the cab, going somewhere, what does he do? He doesn't listen to that radio that they play in the taxi with this ridiculous news articles. He opens the Bhagavatam. He starts reciting the shlokas. He calls it closing the gaps. We close the gaps. The gap meaning absence of positive engagement in devotional service, positive engagement in hearing, chanting, remembering. Vaisheshika Prabhu calls it, we close the gaps. So this is an advanced devotee. That's what an advanced devotee does. If there is a little tiniest gap, he closes it. Spare a minute, let me recite some shlokas that I'm memorizing. Let me open the Bhagavatam. Let me talk to somebody about Krishna. That's what another advanced devotee does. He talks to the taxi drivers about Krishna. One opening, it's like small talk, and then he talks about God. Do you pray? Do you pray 6 times a day? Do your children pray? And then we fan the spark in every little gap, in every insignificant person in our life. We try to zoom in and bring Krishna in the picture. So advanced devotees are very particular, very careful about the details. And neophyte devotees are relaxed. We tend to, disregard small things. And we fall down like that. That's how fall down starts. Devil is in the details. Maya always comes in very humbly. Prabhu, just this one television show, just one episode on a Saturday night when it's raining outside. There's nothing happening in the temple today. So let's just do it. It's serious. Everybody is watching. All the other devotees are watching. It won't hurt your devotion. You will be able to surrender your whole life to Krishna, but just little tiny episode. Come on. Don't be overly, what's the word? Overly strict to yourself. Right? Can anyone relate, or it's just me? Angel can relate. Good. Andrea can relate.
I can relate.
Yeah, Isabel can relate. Jamuna Jai can relate. Wow, very relatable point. Would anyone like to share how they maybe fell down, starting from something small, finding themselves in a rabbit hole, completely buried, completely drowning in Maya? Angel, what was that small thing that you neglected?
I neglected listening to my heart at that point. Well, honestly, it was given another opportunity to an ex where I knew that his foundation is in God, is in Krishna, and I was aware. I mean, and especially since I started practicing the bhakti and and taking the Bhagavatam classes, because I feel like you guys bring everything to the surface, even the things that I don't want to bring to the surface, and I just want to keep it hidden under the carpet.
Or to the surface. Be careful into this class.
So it was, I felt, because and association is very crucial, and I noticed that because he was accustomed to his own activities and everything, I felt like I had to give my heart to him at that point, and I felt, and it hurt, the fact that I understood that it wasn't for me, and I knew that he was going to do the same thing. So that was one way of falling, and having guilt, eating bread, knowing that I get so much inflammation through the senses, is the same concept as me not listening to Krishna every morning. I'm like, oh, it's just gonna be a little piece of bread, and then next thing you know, like, I'm having the whole thing, and and then I have so much inflammation, constipation, etc., so much pain. So it's yeah, I'm sorry if I overshared, but falling is not fun. That's why I practice that.
One small piece of bread not cooked by a devotee, maybe the beginning of a major fall down, just like Angel shared. All right. Any other shares, reflections?
Hare Krishna.
Well,
Go, Jamuna Jai. Go, Jamuna Jai.
oh no, go ahead, Andrea. Go ahead.
You have time constraint. Go for it.
I just want to say, I always feel like my falls are like a cartoon. Like you see a cartoon and they like bump down the steps, like boom, 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 boom. Because my falls are the thoughts, like the thoughts that the useless thoughts that I just like, I'm wasting time here. Why am I even thinking about this? Why am I letting myself diverted? And it's it's like, oh, there's another one. And just talking about Visheka Prabhu, he is a person that never does that. He's got those cards and he pulls them out. And I think so many of my thoughts are just wasted. It's just, so that's those like little, they're not, it's not like a tremendous fall from a hill, but I just like bump, bump, bump. I keep bumping myself down the steps with all these stupid thoughts. So.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing tremendous. It may seem like it's nothing tremendous, but then you're going down these steps, boom, 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 and then it's tremendous. Be careful, Jamuna Jaya. Andrea?
Hare Krishna, Ananda-bihari Prabhu. I have a really silly example, which is addiction to YouTube. So I'll start by like, oh, I'm gonna be on YouTube and listen to kirtans, and then all of a sudden YouTube will suggest like a movie trailer or something like that, and I'll be like, I'm just gonna watch one. That's why I was laughing when you were giving the example. I'm just gonna watch one movie trailer, and then before I know it, I've watched like an hour and a half of just total like nonsense, and I was just like, what was I doing? Like I could have listened to Wisdom of the Sages or like a lecture or just listened to kirtan or read a book, but it's just like it's like what Angel was saying in terms of like something that you just snack on that is addictive, and it's that and it's, I'm not saying that we need to beat ourselves up about it, because that's not helpful either, but just to be aware, like you said, that these are the subtle energies that come with some of these things. They kind of, instead of helping us clean our heart, a lot of times they muddy it up more, and it just makes it more difficult to connect to Krishna in a way. So it's not about beating ourselves up or beating others up. It's about just being aware and and just being like, okay, well, sorry, and please help me out, Krishna, to resist the temptation of that one more movie trailer, that one more show on YouTube.
Yeah, so thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here. Don't get near those things. Sundarananda, you wanted to share your fall down?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. I was thinking when Angel and Andrea and others were speaking, I was thinking it's all of those. I mean, combined. That's amazing that So basically snacking, yes, that's a check mark. Then basically YouTube for sure, because I personally am passionate about trading and with respect to crypto and so on. So that's something I get sidetracked into, watching YouTube videos. Obviously, something comes up, right? And YouTube has a thing of popping up, things recommended, blah blah, and then they want to keep you inside their web, and I get pulled in. So this is going to be useful for me too. Thank you.
Yeah, so one helpful kind of external way of keeping our senses under control is to not get near those things that we know can get us started in our fall down. Like in this 12-step program, they don't tell them, okay, now that you've completed your 12 steps, now you can go hang out in the bars. You're free from that addiction. It's every day. It's for life. Every day. I know I can't control myself. I don't want to go near that thing. I don't want to get near the bar. Don't bring your phone to the bathroom. That's, I'm preaching to myself. Don't get near the TV fridge. Don't get near the fridge. Lock it. I don't know. It's like, don't stand. Lust is like a freight train. Don't stand. Don't situate yourself. Don't stand on the tracks. It's gonna be there. And it's gonna run you over. Just don't stand there. Don't physically, geographically, circumstantially, do not situate yourself on the way of this giant freight train that is going to run you over, the freight train of lust. That's like more on the side of etiquette, kind of just don't be in those places, don't hang out in those areas. But on the positive side, we've discussed how bhakti is the solution. Shravanam, kirtanam, all these processes. Srila Prabhupada says, engage everything you have. Yatkaroshi, whatever you do it for Krishna. And this positive engagement may play out differently for different people in different stages of their lives. For Arjuna, Krishna's friend, Krishna told him, fight. That's your qualification. That's where you're at. Don't take sannyas right away. Don't go into the forest. Don't walk away from your duty. It's your duty. It may appear very, materially contaminating and bewildering, and it may seem that it's far better to just walk away and go into the forest and become like a sage and mendicant and no material engagements whatsoever. If that is your qualification, go for it. But if you find yourself being a family man, for example, or a person who has a job or social engagements, don't cut them right away. Bhakti, Srila Prabhupada says in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, it's a gradual process. It's a gradual process. One foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Less things for your sensual enjoyment, more bhakti. More sense control, and more bhakti. There's a very strong correlation between the two. Andrea?
That actually goes into a question that I had, Prabhu. I was wondering, as we were all talking about these things that we struggle with, and I also think about how if we get really fanatical sometimes about little details, how it sometimes, well, a lot of times we'll push away people that we're trying to, have a connection with or to share Krishna consciousness with, and they get very pushed away by the kind of fanatical, like, for example, in general society, it's considered rude to talk to someone about their religion or their spirituality, to ask someone like, oh, do you pray? Like, do you believe in God? Like, it's considered rude and it's not something that you do. So how do we balance that? Because we do want to work on the details and grow our bhakti, but we also don't want to push people away that might benefit from being around us and having that example. I don't know if that question makes sense.
So you're asking how to correct somebody without offending them, or what?
No, not correction, but not getting so fanatical that we lose sight of how we can still have relationships with people without.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So I once asked that question to Ganesham Prabhu, who's a very advanced devotee, very realized soul. I told him about all this heavy stuff that's in Srimad Bhagavatam, and that this other person that I wanted to follow all this heavy stuff wasn't following. And I asked Ganesham, how can I kind of nudge this person a little bit? And so he told me, all this heavy stuff, Prabhu, that's for you to follow. If you're preoccupied with this heavy stuff, that's for you. You follow that. You follow the details. And then naturally, if you have a relationship with that other person, they will follow. They will see how purified and advanced you become. And this is how we change the hearts. We don't have to get pushy or, like a bookworm, quoting Shastra to them, for them to follow. It's always good to start to keep the heavy stuff for ourselves. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu, he didn't tell me, Ananda-bihari, be careful about the details. I just observed him doing that. And I want to have what Vaisheshika Prabhu has. And therefore, I'm naturally inclined to follow what he's doing, to follow him. So that would be my answer. Great. But Bhima Prabhu, go ahead, unmute yourself. Unmute your horses. Bhima Prabhu, can you hear us?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Wonderful subject matter. It's as Krishna says, lust only Arjuna. And of course, that's lust for everything, the world, money. We fail to remember that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, is a woman, for both of us, females and males, who consider ourselves females and males in this world. The love of money or striving after money is non-different. Worry, anxiety over money, attraction for making money, taking a job that will compromise our ability to rise early in the morning and be with Krishna first thing, to do our job, making a decision that, well, I get this job, it'll give me more money, and maybe I'll be able to give more money to the temple, but what it will do will destroy my morning sadhana. That attraction to money is also attraction to a woman. It's Lakshmi Devi. It's the goddess of fortune. So that lust is very general, and I just like to say that this is the Bhakti Center, and we said that Bhakti is the cure for this lust. And I'd just like to I believe it's Gauranga Bolite Habe, the song by Narottam Das Thakur. Vishaya Chariya Kabe Sudha Habe Mana Kabe Hami Haribo Sri Brindaban. When shall I, when the mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful. So this understanding of what love is, and then it also says in the song, when will I be eager to study the books of the six Goswamis? And this nectar of devotion, this attraction to the loving pastimes of Krishna and Radharani and the gopis and the pure devotees who are falling over themselves to get to Krishna, that the more we immerse ourselves in these pastimes, these leelas, it's like pouring milk into a cup of ink. The material world is a cup of ink. I'm 60 years old. I was in the movement back in the 1980 to 1990, and as I wrote in my in the comment there, when you had asked what are the causes of Falldown, it was pride in service. I was a Sankirtan devotee. I lived in a van with other devotees for 10 years straight, just busting across the country. And, you developed a great pride due to my immaturity. And then, of course, Krishna said, okay, let's just wipe this pride from you. Go and suffer. And so, there was a great fall. I suffered a great fall, and that was forgetfulness, despite the fact of having personal association, intimate, long-term association with Radhanath Maharaj and Vashana Maharaj. And Chandramali Maharaj, I traveled with him for years, even despite all that, because of pride, because thinking that oneself is the doer. Krishna will allow you to try to go it alone, to see if you can do it alone, and then you wake up later on. So that's the first thing, is to understand in the science of Krishna consciousness that we're not the doer. We are not responsible for the lungs that take in our breath. We're not the creators of the very oxygen we breathe. We do not beat our own hearts. So we have to be very, very humble in that. And we also have to understand that we very rarely mention it, but it's all about love, falling in love with Krishna and Vrindavan and the devotees, in love. And I'll just conclude right now that if anybody has ever, when you're in the material world, you have this illusion of falling in love. And when you fall in love with somebody, or you're attracted to someone, you don't have to say to yourself, well, I got to go study up on this person. I got to go study their Facebook page. I got to study their Instagram, find out where they live. Actually, that's kind of spooky and creepy. But the more you understand Krishna, the more you read these pastimes and the books of the Goswamis, the more you you fill that cup with that nectar, the milk, and then the ink pours out. So it's not so much we have to stop ourselves from doing something, but that we just simply have to do the other thing, to understand that ultimately to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and soul, and all thy words, and all thy strength, is a result of love. It comes naturally. So how do you love someone? To know Krishna is to love Krishna. So we need to study the books. I'm not a great scholar. I can't memorize shlokas, et cetera, et cetera. But the more I read the Bhagavatam, the more I read the pastimes, 10th canto, it's not so esoteric. It's not so esoteric. Love is love. We have a reflection of it in this world. The more we do that, the more it becomes natural to be attracted to Krishna. And once you start getting attracted, have a little bit of affection, then, as Prabhupada says in one of his purports, the material world becomes like a cold, pale, dead thing. It becomes very transparent. You start seeing through everything, and you stop being attracted. So it's not of our own volition. It's just simple fact of, as Prabhupada once again in one of his purports in the Bhagavad Gita says, it's like a little girl and a little boy falling in love with each other. So we shouldn't be so troubled by it. It's a supernatural and a very natural process, but we have to just simply pray for Krishna to reveal himself to us, and then engage in finding all about Krishna and his devotees. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Bhima Prabhu ki jai. What an amazing input. Andrea is appreciating your input. Jamuna Jaya. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Yeah. Okay, do we have any other reflections or questions? If not, I'll share one last point, and feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt at any point. So just like as Bhima Prabhu mentioned, it's not about walking away from things. It's by studying about Krishna that we get freed from lust, from contamination. And there's a verse, the chapter 3, the whole chapter, I encourage you to read Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, deals with this dichotomy of the worldly duties and spiritual, our spiritual dharma, our spiritual essence. And it says here in verse 4, so Bhagavad Gita 3:4, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, freedom from karma, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection, devotional service. So devotional service is not merely about renunciation, or renouncing things. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of his prescribed forms of duties, which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. In other words, Srila Prabhupada says that don't skip your duties. Don't renounce prematurely, he says. First, get yourself purified by discharging your duties that were prescribed to you. And then, so Srila Prabhupada, but then he kind of brings the point home very nicely in the end, so we'll get to that. So Srila Prabhupada says, without purification, one cannot, in other words, without doing your duty in this world, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, by, in other words, sannyas, by abruptly cutting your connections with the world and walking away from the world. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyas, or simply becoming renounced and dropping your duties, or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana. So that's what empirical philosophers may think, that we become as good as God if we just drop our duties. But Lord Krishna does not approve of this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyas is simply a disturbance to the social order. In other words, without doing your duties where you are now, to your family, to your, to the society where you live, and without doing that in the spirit of devotion. In the spirit of devotion, that's a very important thing. Such renunciation is just a disturbance. On the other hand, so here is the cream of the crop. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause of devotional service, is accepted by the Lord. Even a slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. In other words, Srila Prabhupada says, do your duty, get purified and advance gradually on the path of Krishna consciousness. And then he says, but devotional service is transcendental, and even if you do devotional service without doing your duties, it will be accepted by the Lord. In other words, the principle of bhakti is higher than the principle of doing your duty in devotional service. So we should do our duty understanding that there is a higher principle, that sometimes when our duty in this world becomes an obstacle, for example, to our bhakti. And Bhima Prabhu said, if this job pays good, but it'll deprive me of the association of the devotees, then it's a disservice. And then such duty should be adjusted. I don't want to say abandoned, but adjusted gradually. Because bhakti is the higher principle. Even it's spiritual bypassing. Sometimes it's being referred to as something negative, or you're spiritually bypassing, as if you are callous to the suffering of others. But spiritual bypassing, if it's truly spiritual, it's a very good thing. You bypass great difficulties, Srila Prabhupada says. It helps you overcome great difficulties. If it's truly spiritual, then it's precisely what it does. You bypass all these nations and great difficulties in the material world. I'm talking too much. Okay, do we have any concluding remarks? Any reflections?
I wanted to that when I read that chapter, I remember telling myself, like, wow, so that means I don't have to become a nun and go to the, renounce everything, that Krishna has still taken me as I am. And as long as I start off somewhere, he'll be able to take that. And it all starts with one step at a time. And the moment you wake up, what is it that I'm grabbing? Am I looking in and giving gratitude and prayer? Or am I grabbing my phone and running to social media, or wait until the time my alarm goes off and then run into to class or work or whatever, feeding my son? Now it gives me the opportunity to really evaluate, go within and honor God, and do my prayers, do the japa, and be with more ease, instead of being in survival mode or in that animalistic mode. So it just takes that one step at a time, and not to expect so much from myself. So all that pressure and all that weight. I mean, even as a child, we're taught that if we do something good, we're appreciated by our parents. And but sometimes as we get older, there's higher expectations, and they want us to get our masters and our degrees and everything. So, but Krishna doesn't expect that. He just wants us to give it in that moment, in that one step at a time. So thank you for that reminder.
Thank you, and thank you. Prasheshika Prabhu says, we have nothing but attention. We're just lumps of attention. That's all we've got. That's our only asset. So where we direct this attention, that's what Krishna cares about. Where this attention goes. Where attention goes, energy flows. With this, I will conclude. Thank you everyone for tuning in, for staying overtime. I know it's Monday. Everybody's going to do their duties in the spirit of devotion, of course. Right? Jatin, Thanks for a wonderful class. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. It's every day. Shrimad Grantaraj, the king of books, Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Goodbye. Hare Bol. Have a wonderful day.